Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of The Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Joining me today for 2 days in a row, if you count Polite Society podcast, Rob Morse of Self-Defense Gun Stories. Rob, thanks for tagging along today, man.
I'm proud to be with you. I just feel lucky that it's Craig DeLuce's birthday, and so he couldn't be on. And you let me come on anyway, so sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
There you go. And by the way, happy birthday, Craig. Hope you're enjoying it. Hope you're having a good one, man.
Amen to that.
All right. We do have a lot of stuff to get to today, man. Governor Hochul of New York signed a new law, or signed a new bill yesterday. It will become law. I do not have in front of me when it becomes law. But very soon there will be a new law in New York that 18, 19, and 20-year-olds no longer can purchase firearms. A lot of other regulations coming in on that. There's going to be regulations for permitting for all modern sporting rifles. There's an expansion of the red flag law they've already got. And there's some there's some other things that go in with it, man. This is just this is simply jumping on a bandwagon here.
Well, it's superstition, Paul. Because I want you to back up half a step. Today they can't buy so-called assault rifles. Now understand that you can get married at 18 without your parents' consent in New York. There's no lower age limit to take out a mortgage. You can get a commercial pilot's license at 18. Obviously, you can become a mother and father. You can get your CDL at 18. You can become a six-pack boat captain, which is a license to operate a boat for hire when you're 18. Oddly enough, you have to be 20 years old. You can get a pilot's
license at 16.
Yes, but commercial, where you can carry others for hire at 18.
Is 18, yeah.
20-year-old to enter the police academy. So we know we can then end up with a situation where a 20-year-old who's carrying an AR can arrest a 20-year-old for carrying an AR. And we know that people who get their concealed carry license are more responsible than the average citizen. Because you can still get your license at a young age. The licensees are more law-abiding and nonviolent than even the police. And that's true even between 20-year-olds who get their license versus 20-year-old policemen. So we can have a 20-year-old licensee who's more law-abiding than the police getting arrested because we're afraid he's not going to be law-abiding. This is superstition. Go ahead.
I think this is super double secret probation. We're trying to make it more illegal.
Which doesn't work. But what's embarrassing is the media won't point out that the emperor of gun control is naked.
Yeah, you're right. I want to get Charlie Chambers is already commenting in over from the Facebook side. I want to get this one up real quick. He says, take New York to court and don't watch Matthew McConaughey movies, in my humble opinion. By the way, we're going to be talking about Mr. McConaughey here in a little bit. And believe me, there are plans afoot to do just that, Charlie. I've had conversations with my boss, Alan. There are those plans. So, first step in that is just waiting to see what the Supreme Court does.
Yeah, which we might know Monday?
We may, yes. There are 30 decisions left, 30 decisions left to be released before the court recesses. They're scheduled to recess the end of this month. The Supreme Court can do whatever the Supreme Court wants to do. They can go later if they want. They generally don't. The expectation is there's going to be a lot of rapid fire decisions over this coming Monday, the following Tuesday, and the Monday after that.
Right. They typically release their rulings on a Monday. We're talking about on average 10 each Monday. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That we'll have plenty to talk about, is what I conclude.
Yes, absolutely we will.
Should we dive into Virginia?
Yes, let's talk about Virginia. Let me get my show notes back up so I can see what we're talking about.
See, it's hard to drive the Enterprise and do show notes at the same time.
Democrat Congressman Dan Breyer proposed a tenfold excise tax on modern sporting rifles. Because it's a spending bill, a companion bill in the Senate would only need 50 votes to pass. According to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, if it's only a tax, I wonder if the other judges would agree with it. That would mean a 1,000% tax. If I were to go right now to buy an AR, it's a $550 AR for a average, for something like a Smith & Wesson AR-15 Sport 2. It's a $550 weapon.
I would and it'd be a $5,000 tax.
Yeah, so it'd be a total of $6,000. Yeah. I
would love for them to do this and then have the Supreme Court say, the right to tax, the power to tax is the power to destroy. We have no rights if our rights can be taxed. That's what they said about the poll tax. Therefore, there can be no taxes on guns and ammunition. By the way, what would that do to, when you go get a silencer and you need the tax stamp?
Yes. Well, and it would hurt in some places too, because I'm trying to remember the name of the bill, but a portion of our ammunition does go to conservation.
And you and I we're both too old. Yeah, I forgot the name of those funds that are set aside. Typically, as you say, for conservation, a lot of local ranges go, we need to build the berm higher. Oh, get the Pittman-Roberts.
Yes.
It took me a second.
Yes.
Pittman-Roberts Act funds to say, here, it's now safer to, hunt, fish, shoot.
Yes.
We're going to beat up on an actor who says nothing very well.
Yes. And he was this guy was planning on running for Texas governor. That can now never happen again because
he can run. Please run. Please run.
Yeah, he's got a Matthew McConaughey is who we're talking about.
Right.
He's got a 4-point plan to practice gun responsibility, including mandatory background checks for all gun purchases, raising the age to buy a modern sporting rifle from 18 to 21, implementing the so-called red flag laws in all 50 states, and requiring a waiting period for the purchase of a modern sporting rifle. We could fill the rest of our program with why each and every one of these won't work and why they're all bad ideas. But I'm going to let you have a first crack at this, bud.
Well, Paul, I'm going to steal right from you. We talked about this last night. The state who's adopted all those measures, the state that has the highest gun control rating, Giffords is in love with California, and they had the most active shooter events of any state.
Mm-hmm.
So this doesn't work. Now, it's fascinating, and I'm not as pretty as he is, so I have to resort to facts. When you notice that these measures would not have stopped the murders at the Pulse nightclub.
Nope.
The murders at Sutherland Springs Church in Texas.
Nope.
At the grocery store in Buffalo, New York.
Nope.
And it wouldn't have stopped the murder at Uvalde. Again, when we're picking on things that don't work, we're saying, hey, you guys who obey the law, stop acting like criminals. We're not the ones that are doing it. It's called superstition. And is that all the Democrat politicians have left?
I believe that is all they have left. There was a comment, I can't remember if it was yesterday. I think it was. But it came from the YouTube side, and somebody was saying that this is the last push, that there's such a big surge in new gun buyers that the anti-gunners are seeing that if these people start voting the way they're buying, their time is up. So they're trying to push while they can.
Interesting.
And they're grabbing Rahm Emanuel's playbook. Don't let any crisis go to waste. And they're pushing hard now while they can.
As the window closes.
Yeah.
I wonder, it is a bit of a boiling the frog. I wonder if they're turning up the heat too high and the window will close even faster. Maybe they don't care. Maybe they have this sense that they can do anything they can pass because they know a lot of them are leaving office in November. There's no such thing as a poison pill. They know they're gone. Interesting. Boy, politics is a 3D chess game.
I'm telling you.
What do you think about the Bay State?
Yeah, I think, and I want to give credit to another Charlie Chambers. Charlie Cook sent me this story this morning.
Right.
And I will see if I can find. I don't. Yeah, here it is. I'm going to go ahead and put this story in the comments for both Facebook and YouTube. Because this story is nothing but a puff piece for this.
Are you sure you grabbed the right one? You want the one for the U.S. Marshal?
Yeah, the guy
for
who's
the District of Massachusetts.
Yes,
and I think you grabbed NPR.
No, that's the one I did put. Oh, you're right. I did. You're right.
Okay. Remember, I can see what you're doing. I cheated. I'm not using the force. I'm not using the force today, Paul. I'm not that good. Well, let me talk about it.
Yeah, and I'm getting the right one now. Go ahead.
There's this pushback as you were just mentioning. A lot of Democrats are going for it, their last gasp at gun control. This one's Brian Keyes, chief of the Chelsea Police Department, who said, by the way, demanding to control whether you get guns or not, that's not power crazy on my part. No, it's the guy. It's not, honest. Well, the key is may issue, discretionary issuing, where chiefs can do all kinds of things in theory. In theory, they're saving lives. Here's why that doesn't work. Guns do so much good.
Mm-hmm.
We use guns thousands of times for every time a criminal uses a gun in the commission of a crime, of a violent crime. I mean, it's in theory illegal every time a criminal leaves his house, but we can't measure all those. So when he uses it in a violent crime. So if we disarm 1 out of 1,000 honest citizens, we've actually taken a step backwards.
Yep.
Proportions matter. And let's face it, law enforcement individuals, they can have hearts of gold, but their character is not made of stone. Of course, they have egos, and they may issue laws because it gives them not only lots and lots of power, lots of strokes, gives them lots of campaign donations if they're office holders.
Yeah, look at San Jose, California for that. That's all you got to do.
We saw it in San Jose, L.A., New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts. Where?
When you lived there, San Diego.
Yeah. One of the yes, and San Diego has done a lot by the folks. Well, that's a news. If we didn't have so much news, we could talk about San Diego.
I do want. I want to get this comment up here. Lee Olivier says, "Vote how you buy." Great point.
Please do. And isn't that interesting? We are seeing the democratization of firearms ownership. Democrats are buying guns. Minority members, women are buying guns. gun owners look like the general population. Will they ignore that and keep voting the way they always have? Lee, if you've got
I hope
a
not.
crystal ball, well, we hope that they realize that honest people like them shouldn't have to endure what they endured. Was making it hard? Did making it hard for you make the rest of us any safer?
We had a story yesterday when Charlie was on, and I'm trying to remember numbers. I can't, so I'm going to go digging, and I'm going to pull up yesterday's show notes, and I'm going to get those numbers. While you do that,
can I jump into NPR?
Please do.
The FBI just issued a report, and they were, for once, extremely careful. Yeah, we can't confuse all of the FBI with the BATFE. They said yesterday, look, there's a difference between an active shooter event, a mass murder, a school massacre with a firearm. Each one of those is a different critter. They have different definitions. And, for example, if two gangs go at it in the school parking lot at midnight, when in the middle of summer, school's empty, school won't be in, students won't be there for months, that's not what we mean by a school massacre, even though maybe 4 people were shot. So NPR put out a piece that said there were 248 mass murders in 22 weeks. Well, the mass shootings. Well, they had to claim that 4 people were wounded. If by that definition, the gangs do that 3 days a week, and that's just called a weekend in Chicago.
In Chicago, yes.
So NPR redefined the headline to get something alarming, and I go, come on, that's what I expect from CNN. I mean, clickbait journalism. I went and looked, I dug through the records. There has been, count it, 1 mass murder at a school where children were present and injured in all of 2022.
And that was about 2 weeks ago.
Uvalde, right.
Yes. I want to go back to the increase. The numbers came out, and this is off FoxNews.com story. A 58%, this is just from 2020 to 2021. 58% increase in African Americans buying firearms, 49% increase in Hispanic Americans buying firearms, and a 43% increase in Asian Americans buying firearms. Minorities are growing very quickly in the firearms world.
And those numbers need some context, because if only 1% of Asians owned guns and another 1%, you could say, wow, 100%. No, they are within 10. I think one of them, Orientals, were like 12% less than whites. So it's comparable. It's not wildly distorted. So it might be 1 out of 4 out of Asians and 4 out of 10 whites have a gun.
Right.
So they're almost there.
Yeah, and I'm hoping those trends continue. I'm honestly, what I'm hoping is that the people who need the firearms most get the firearms, and generally those who are economically disadvantaged are the people most in need of defense at home, because they have longer response times to the more disadvantaged neighborhoods of police. And historically, I'm not trying to be racist, but historically those are minority neighborhoods. And so the more minority gun owners we have, the better off it is for everybody.
Yes, I agree. Do you remember there was a tax on weapons right after the Civil War, so that to put them out of the economic reach of freed black men?
Mm-hmm.
This gun control stuff is racist, Paul.
It is. Well, and at the same time, you brought up you brought up the poll tax. The poll tax was right about the same time for the same reason.
Yes. Yeah. I'll have to talk about that, Paul. You've given me plenty to write about. I had other plans until you brought that up.
Going back to our NPR discussion, Larry says reframing again.
Yeah. Is that like reconnecting? Sorry. Can we talk about which one was that? Oh, there we go. Can we go to the Buffalo attack?
Yes, there. I want to frame this one because,
please.
In the Buffalo attack, there was a female working in the grocery store. She snuck into a closet as the gunman was in the store. She dialed 911, and the gunman's in the store. So when 911 answers, she tried whispering. I'm going to read a quote from this person off this story off of Breitbart.com. This is directly quoting the person calling 911. Quote, I called 911. I go through the whole operator and everything. The dispatcher comes on, and I'm whispering to her. I said, Miss, please send help to 1275 Jefferson. There's a shooter in the store. She proceeded in a very nasty tone and says, I can't hear you. Why are you whispering? You don't have to whisper. They can't hear you. So I continue to whisper, and I said, ma'am, he's still in the store. He's still shooting. I'm scared for my life. Please send help. Out of nervousness, my phone fell out of my hand. She said something I couldn't make out, and then the phone hung up. That dispatcher, it was out of the Breitbart News article today. Thank goodness that dispatcher was put on a leave. Now that dispatcher has been fired. If there's any justice, that dispatcher will be spending a little bit of time behind bars for malfeasance.
No, but okay, they suspended the police officer who didn't enter the school in Florida while, 19 kids were killed and 19 more wounded. Well, see, not only are the police not obligated to help us, we can't even fire them if they run away. He was reinstated.
He was.
Let that sink in.
And his benefits were restored.
Exactly. The police are allowed to stand aside, particularly if they're ordered to stand aside. So think about that. When people riot and burn our cities, the police were ordered to stand aside. Now, I have to ask, Republican or Democrat, are you safer if you're disarmed when the police won't come to help you?
Exactly. And we're going to get to more about that in a little bit, too. But I want to get this comment in. Charlie Chambers says he lived downtown Crossing, Boston, next to where the Boston Massacre site was, about 30 yards. Gun control there today is similar to communist China. And look how well that's working for them.
So Paul, again, you say it. Bill Frady, Mark Walters, Tom says it every weekend. God bless all of them. They're saying that the gun control emperor has no clothes. This is not working, but the mainstream media is carrying an awful lot of water. You know, other than Tucker, who else is speaking the truth, do you think?
Well, I'm hoping that enough people are paying attention to The Bullet, self-defense gun stories, Lock and Load Radio with Bill Frady, Cam and Company over at Bearing Arms.
There you go, Bearing Arms, of course.
Tom Gresham's Gun Talk. I'm hoping there are enough people that are going to outside media sources that the legacy media isn't carrying the kind of water that you and I
There you go.
grew up with them carrying.
I'd forgotten that. Thank you. That perspective is important. In fact, say that again, because when you and I grew up,
there were 3 channels on the television, and that's where you got your news. And there were maybe 5 or 6.
Radio,
yeah.
2 a.m. radio was, the fringe stuff. And you and I grew up having this perception that you and I are now 2 a.m. radio, and we forget, no, we probably have a significant number of listeners compared to CNN. Wow, that's mind-boggling. I have to, yeah.
I got a report I got an email report. I tracked the numbers for the Bullet podcast version, and there are tens of thousands of podcasts on Apple iTunes. You can get any kind of podcast you want in almost every language on the planet. The Bullet is number 202 in all podcasts on Apple iTunes. I was floored, and we are. I don't have the full listing. I'll look it up later, but I'm betting there are some major news networks that put out podcasts that were just a little bit above them. Interesting.
So we've democratized media.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than have to watch them to get our news in the weekend, or in the evening, we can choose the most reliable sources. Thank you for trusting me with your reputation and letting me join you.
And by the way, specifically if you're watching on YouTube, I got a warning today from our YouTube channel. From something I said back on the 3rd. By the way, you can no longer on YouTube look for the episode that aired on the 3rd of June. Feel free to sneak over to Facebook and look for the 3rd of June Facebook video. That's the companion. YouTube didn't like that I said something that I said. I'm not going to retract it because what I said, I believe. I'm not going to repeat it because I don't want the YouTube channel totally removed, which they threatened to do today. So, just be aware that if I'm going to continue to say what I say, but YouTube is becoming very, very picky and is going through and actually listening to podcasts or videos to make sure that I don't cross what they want me to cross. If that ever comes to guns, believe me, we're gone.
Yes. And what you said had to do with some movies that came out recently.
Yeah. Something about mules.
Yeah, and how many of them there might be.
Yes.
Where are we going? Oh. Did we talk about, we already did 10,000%.
Let's talk about HR 7910.
Okay.
There is a bill in the House. It's HR 79. We're going to actually talk about 3 bills. And Rob, let me ask you right now, do you have to be out right at the bottom of the hour? Can we go a few minutes long?
No, if I can go a few more minutes.
Okay, good, because I want to cover this and I want to cover a story out of New Jersey, but
okay, let's go.
HR 7910 is right now active in the House. This I got off an NRA ILA email. While measures of this bill are too long to list, they include a ban on firearm acquisition for law-abiding adults, a ban on standard capacity magazines. HR 7910 wants to limit you to a 10-round magazine nationwide, a ban on untraceable homemade firearms. By the way, it's already illegal. What they're saying is untraceable. You can't scrub off the serial number or file off a serial number on your firearm. And we just got confirmation this past week. The ATF now is saying They're counting ghost guns. If and we got confirmation that if you file off, if they find a firearm filed where a criminal is filed off the serial number, they're counting that as a ghost gun.
Well, of course, they were told by their political owners to jack up the numbers.
Yes. Yeah, that they've been weaponized by the Biden administration. The new firearms trafficking restrictions, and 2 points in here that's aimed at limiting straw purchases, which, by the way, is already illegal.
But would also definitions are critical here, Paul. They're saying if you buy a gun for the use of someone else, you can be arrested. You realize if I buy a gun so that the 4-H troop or the Boy Scouts can use it,
yep,
by this definition of straw purchase, I should be arrested.
Rob, you do training, and specifically, I know you like to train new shooters.
Yes, sir. Love
if you were to buy a .22 caliber handgun, which I know you have in the past,
yes, indeed,
and you were to, for purposes of low recoil, if you were to have a new shooter who happened to be elderly and maybe had some arthritis problems, start with that .22 caliber handgun, that could possibly make you a foul. I can't talk. Make you run afoul of this new law.
Of the law, and because I bought a firearm intended for the use by another person,
not transfer to, just use of.
Use of, right? And you go, well, wait a minute, was the legal use or illegal use? Because okay, if a grandpa buys a cricket rifle so that his grandson can come shoot with him when they're out at the country property, really? That's what we need to stop? This is an attack on the firearms culture.
It's got safe storage provisions in there. And by the way, the only way to enforce safe storage provisions is to come into your house unannounced. That's the only way.
And again, we forget the good things that guns do. There are 4,500 defensive gun uses a day, easily 2,000 a night. Okay, what's going to happen to grandma if not only she needs her gun at night, but she's told she has to lock it up? How many lives will that cost?
Hundreds of thousands, I'm guessing. Yeah, when you multiply that by grandmothers and by, yeah.
Right. She could have defended herself, except she didn't have the couple minutes to get her glasses, open the safe, right? Is grandma really the person we need to put in prison? Is she the problem, or is this political grandstanding?
And then one last thing, a ban on certain firearm parts, meaning that the ATF fiat that you can no longer have bump stocks, that was never a law, that will now be a law. Yeah.
Paul, you've seen it. There was a bill, and I know Gavin Nuisance, as he's now been dubbed on by SAF.
And he will be referred to that forevermore.
Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. Said, these are gun parts and we should serialize them and track them. This is for every gun barrel, every recoil spring. I want to watch how you serialize a recoil spring, by the way.
And not ruin it.
Wow. Because if you're a competitive shooter, you've got gun parts all over your guns. Paul, you know what? Competitive shooters are a lot like competitive racers, whether it's motorcycles or cars, or there are parts everywhere. Which gun is it this week, Yeah. Wow. What a mess.
If you have a Glock and you break a mainspring and you're in a competition, there are 3 people that are going to be offering to let you use theirs. If Glock's not right there to help you fix it themselves.
In fact, we've got, I can't think of when I didn't have a spare. I could replace mainsprings and firing pins and hammers left, right, and center. 2 more, the 2 other bills I want to talk about real quick. HR 233
2377 and HR 3480 are different versions of strengthening red flag laws only. Guess what? It's national. So I'm going to put this up. U.S. Capitol Switchboard. The phone number for the U.S. Capitol Switchboard, 202-224-3121. Please, 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 please call tomorrow morning. I don't care who, even if it's AOC. If you happen to live on Long Island, New York, and AOC is your representative, still call that number. Talk to your house, the office of your House of Representatives, Congress critter. Tell them you expect them to vote against HR 2337, HR 3480, and HR 7910. All three of these are the gun banners' dream bills.
If you had a HOA problem and they see you carrying a gun out to your car and you're going to go shoot at the range and they want to get rid of you, they red flag you.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I wouldn't. Isn't the technical name for that bigotry?
Oh, it certainly is.
Okay.
And depending on the big thing with red flag laws, I've never seen a state where, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, but the only, I want to get this one. Kevin Sona is watching, and he just put a comment up, and I totally agree with this. When you call the U.S. Capitol Switchboard, please be respectful. You get more flies with sugar than you do with vinegar. You're going to get much farther if you're respectful when you call.
By the way, they are just checking a box, so they don't care why you think what you think. They just want to know your opinion.
Yes.
I want you to vote against these bills. ABC. Done. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Click. Wow. They really are pushing hard. Bloomberg and Soros must be just spending a ton of money to get all this done.
Yeah. At some point, you got to wonder, are they going to run out? Because they have just been pumping money into this. Well, Rob, for as long as you and I have been working together, Soros has been putting money into disarmament, as has Bloomberg.
Well, okay. So there is going to be a very contentious election.
Yes.
The trends are all in our way. If there's an honest election, I wonder if that'll get us thrown off. And so the votes count. We expect people who oppose gun control to do very well in this upcoming election.
Yes.
So are anti-rights billionaires dangling just this huge flood of money in front of politicians saying, I can dominate the airwaves if you'll carry my water now?
Again, here's my hope. They can pump all the money into CNN, ABC, NBC, all that. I'm hoping there are enough people that are watching The Bullet and Cam and Company and listening to Tom Gresham. And
Mark Walters.
Yeah, yes. I'm hoping there's enough of us going around the legacy media. And why do I insist on calling them legacy media? Because just like a legacy port on your computer, they're still there, but nobody really knows why.
Gotcha. Well, from your lips to our listeners' ears.
Yeah. So, all right. We've gotten just a ton of comments. I'm not going to be able to get them all in, and we're not going to get to that New Jersey story. I will save that for tomorrow. I do want to talk about that tomorrow when Dan Waz will be with us.
Oh, that'll be great.
Yeah. So let me, Kevin, when we were talking about that bill here, couple comments real quick on our way out. He said, so no gifting.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, because your grandson could be a hidden criminal with his .22 cricket rifle.
Exactly. Larry says the trick is to criminalize and felonize as many people as possible, so they will then be ineligible to have guns and defend themselves. Yeah. And he followed up with, it's also called abuse of process.
Yes.
And then last comment, and we're going to have to shut it down because we're already 10 minutes late. John says, Bloomberg spent $1 billion on his failed primary election and $100 million in Florida for Biden. And I'm going to...
We got to stay on the air, Paul.
We got to stay on the air. We're going to leave that one right there. We're going to leave that one right there.
Thank you, John, but that's dangerous for us to talk about.
Yes. Yes.
Pitches in a heartbeat.
So, all right. Rob, on our way out the door, would you please tell us about Self-Defense Gun Stories and about your blog, please?
Yes. I'm on two podcasts, Self-Defense Gun Stories, a little 20-minute snack food, and The Polite Society with you once a week. My blog is slowfacts.wordpress.com. 2,000 articles for you to look at. After 10 years, I'm an overnight sensation. From there, the articles are taken over to Amoland, where I get to write the weekly Armed Citizens column. Thank you, Paul, for having me with you.
Dude, it's an absolute honor and a pleasure to work with you every time I get a chance. So, folks, that is going to do it for me today. Again, tune in 5 p.m. tomorrow Central Time for Dan Was, and we're going to continue 5 p.m. every day this week, 5 p.m. Central Time. So, and we'll see what I know. We've got that New Jersey store we're gonna catch. We'll see what else comes up, but come back and see us tomorrow.